tell you a story later off camera. Anyway, welcome back to the feature of the show. We talk about movies past, present, and future. And today we're doing one of our favorite things to do on this show. We are going back 30 years to see what was in theaters. And today we are talking about No Way Out.
This is heavy duty, Doc. This is great.
No Way Out stars Kevin Costner, Gene Hackman, and Will Patton in a tense political spy thriller. It's definitely one of the best examples to me of that kind of movie. I think that another great example would be maybe like Clear and Present Danger, or like one of the Jack Ryan type movies. It's definitely of that ilk. But I have to say, after seeing this one, it is definitely one of my favorites in that kind of thriller genre. John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a really good movie. It was a surprise. When you look at the cover of this film, it's not promising. And I only know about this movie because Max Landis. I have to give the shout out to Max. He did they were fighting on movie fights, best twist ending. In a film, and he was fighting this movie against what was he fighting against? The Usual Suspects, I think,
Sixth Sense.
And the Sixth Sense. Yeah,
some real basic choices.
Yeah, basic choices, but heavy hitters. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I think he used the tactic because no one had seen this movie. Yeah. That he could argue it very well. I had to turn the fight off because I was really interested in this film. I was like, I want to see that, so I'm not going to listen to. I'm going to skip that spoiler section there. And we saw that it was this 30-year anniversary, so let's watch it. Let's check it out.
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting. It's actually been credited as being the film that actually launched Kevin Costner into the leading man stardom. Like, when he showed up in The Untouchables, he was kind of a nobody at that time. And this was the movie that everybody saw that they were like, oh, that Kevin Costner, he should star in more stuff. So this was really the movie that put him on kind of that kind of map where he was such a huge heavy hitter in Hollywood. So I think from that standpoint, it was also really interesting to me to see this movie. This is the movie that really launched him into the superstardom that we know him now. It's really cool as far as to see him again in a young role like that. And actually, he's much better in this than he is in The Untouchable.
I agree too. He's really good in this film.
Yeah, he's not doing fake Jimmy Stewart or cheap bargain bin Jimmy Stewart. He really does a great job in this. Actually, so much so I want to rewatch it. Actually, almost immediately after seeing it.
Will Patton's awesome too.
He really chews the scenery. He really gets into his role. It's like near over the top. He just rides that line in such a really great way. I think you mentioned earlier for the show. You said he reminds you of something that Walton Goggins would do, and that's I think a great comparison to the kind of character that he is in this film. He's really, really good, and it's funny because he's so young. It took me a second at first to be that's Will Patton. That's Will Patton. Holy shit. Also, Gene Hackman is in this movie. He's not in it a bunch. It's more of a supporting role, really. But when he is on screen, I mean, fuck, man, he's Gene Hackman.
It's
one of the few I wish we had back, man. I've really, really always enjoyed Gene Hackman. Love him in The French Connection. So, really, anytime I see him, I kind of get excited about a movie. I really liked him in this one as well, even though he had limited runtime. Someone else who I thought actually was impressive as well, I actually did enjoy Sean Young in this movie. I think everybody knows her as Einhorn from Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. But no, I thought that in general she was quite charming and quite 80s sexy.
Yeah, she was pretty good too. Yeah, it was an interesting character because of the stuff that's going on in the film. We don't want to give any spoilers for this movie. I know usually we do our spoilers for our 30-year anniversary reviews, but this is just one of those films I know not many of you have seen, and I don't want to ruin anything.
Yeah, we definitely wanted this to the intention of you guys going out and checking this out. If you've never seen it before, it's definitely one to take a look at. So we didn't want to spoil really too much of the plot or any of the twists for you.
But there's a lot of stuff going on in the plot, and it was a really interesting movie. It's just so, I just can't believe I've never seen this film before.
One of the most interesting things about it is how the acts of this movie work. A lot of it is, the basic premise of the film is that Kevin Costner, who's a young naval commander, meets this woman, falls in love with her, but it turns out that she's a mistress to a high-ranking, powerful person in the Pentagon. And hilarity ensues. No, just kidding. Murder ensues, and really then shit hits the fucking fan in this movie. But it's such an interesting, like, 3-act structure to this movie, because the title, the No Way Out thing, is really when they lock down the Pentagon near the end of the movie. But that's really, like, that is far into, like, that third act.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably the last, like, 30, 40 minutes of the movie.
It's got a terrible title. It's a bad title. I think that's why no one has seen this movie. It's a
really,
bad title.
It really should have Seagal on the front of it.
Yeah.
Like,
No Way
doing
Out.
some Aikido, like, No Way Out. It just sounds like it would just fit right in with all of Seagal stuff. For sure. I actually agree.
Sure,
That's great. Yeah, no, that's a bad title.
That's a bad title.
Yeah, because I think really the last 30, 40 minutes maybe are really that concept, or like the No Way Out concept. I mean, you could maybe make it like, you could think of it like that, it wouldn't be like that, but no, I mean, really that's actually the movie really is limited. But I thought that it was really, really interesting the way that the movie unfolds. It really does change, and it has very different acts to it. And I think in a good way, though, that build off of each other.
Yeah, and then, I mean, like, even, like, the movie starts with him, like, in an interrogation booth. Much like Atomic Blonde, if you guys have seen Atomic Blonde. It kind of starts out with Kevin Costner being talked to in this booth. And you can see he's bloodied up, he's got whatever. So you know that he's already seen some stuff. He's already been through some stuff. And I just love, okay, the setup had me a little intrigued when I just saw this with Atomic Blonde. But what they do, they don't return back to that.
Yeah, that was the smart choice, and Atomic Blonde should have taken note from No Way Out.
But it was an interesting technique, and then the way they did it was it was just an excellent way of telling the story. And
yeah, I agree. They definitely pulled that off in a much, much better way. And I think that the movie is very satisfying in the way that I think everything links together so well. There are so many things that when you're watching it for the first time you don't think are important are really important to the plot. I think there was parts of the movie where I was watching in the first act where I'm like, how is any of this important? Like, really, do we really need this?
Yeah.
I said that 3 times at least. And then when I get to like the middle to the end of the movie, I'm like, oh shit! That's right! That did happen! And that was so satisfying. And I think that's one of the things about this movie that I think is so satisfying is that it plays with you. You think that there's a wasted minute here and there's not.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of stuff going on in that first act where I'm just like, what is this movie?
Yeah.
Like, Max, what were you talking about? Like that, I seriously was like, is this even the movie that he was talking about? I just remembered wrong. Like it's just really interesting, and the movie, just the way it plays out until like until the end, it just has that punch. Like that was a really good movie.
Yeah, I mean, really, there's that first act that is kind of like this the romance part, that's capped off by the murder, and then we have kind of this more of like with the investigation. You know what I mean? Where it's like more of like a detective movie. He's trying to get answers, and he's investigating, and they're questioning people, and there's chases and
some
stuff
of the
like
plot
that.
plays out. It kind of reminded me of Enemy of the State. Looks like Enemy of the State. Really, I mean, Gene Hackman is in both. I'm sure Enemy of the State maybe pulled from some of that, but it definitely kind of felt that way, and just kind of how like the government is being manipulated as like a training thing, or like they're trying to find somebody, but they're keeping it undercover. It's just a fun plot. It's a very fun story.
Yeah, you bring up definitely the machinations that go on in the movie are interesting, and definitely agree with that. I love that, the cat and mouse game, not just physically in the movie, but mentally in the movie.
Yeah, and it reminded me of a Hitchcock movie. Now, not in the way that Hitchcock films movies, because that's like, I mean, only Hitchcock can really do that. Among some of the greats, but just the way the story kind of plays out, it kind of felt Hitchcockian in nature.
Yeah, I would say that was one of the things that I think that the directing in it is solid. It's Richard Donaldson. I think everybody knows him the most from The Recruit. But this is definitely, especially coming out of something that was so like fun and kinetic, like The Lost Boys. This was definitely a lot more solid state. It's a very different movie. It's solid direction, but it's nothing flashy in a lot of ways. Just well caught, well done, but overall nothing to really write home about.
Some of it is a little dated too. I would say, like, I know there's like a set piece with the ship. I mean, it's clearly a stage.
Yeah.
You know, like there's some stuff in there like that where I would just kind of start going into my negatives with the film. And some of the music too.
You got where I was going.
When you talk about 80s movies.
Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's either you get the original soundtracks, which is the right choice, typically. Or you get like the really, really, like just overly romanticized, like 80s, just.
And man, did they love synths back then. And I think that they really haven't aged well. I think that especially in a movie like this, synths seemed out of place. I think at the time that was common for these, but it really dates it. It dates it hard. I think this movie would be... if maybe had a little bit more of a classic kind of themed, score to it, I think actually would have benefited this movie, I think, a lot better than having the really synth electronic heavy music, which I think really dates the movie. This movie could be timeless otherwise.
Even if you did like touching on Hitchcock again, if you had the more subtle like string or like piano, like dun 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 dun. You know, like kind of like that thriller elements music.
Yeah.
If they would have just, I don't know, you know,
it's the synths. It's the synths.
It does not hold up. Like the 80s, like it just ruined that. For a lot
it's
of
one of
movies.
those things that I'm really glad that we don't quite do so much anymore. I think that in that way that I think that more directors are better with their score handling and the way they make their scores a little more timeless, at least.
Yeah.
It doesn't date them quite as much. I mean, when you have soundtrack is a different thing, but when you have a score, I think, you definitely want that score to age well. And I think that when you have those really 80s synths to it, I mean, because Ennio Morricone can do some stuff with like synths thing, and it doesn't date that hard. So, not to go into it too much more, because like as I said, we don't want to give you guys spoilers. We really want you guys to go and check No Way Out. So, John, what is your final summary and grade for No Way Out?
No Way Out is a complete sleeper. I had no idea this movie existed before watching that episode on Screen Junkies. This movie is a surprise, and it surprises you the more the movie goes along. So like this, it's just an interesting film, and quite delightful, and it had a surprise ending that just kind of like blew me away, and I can't wait to watch it again. This movie it's acted really, really well. Kevin Costner and Gene Hackman and Will Patton are great in this film. Doesn't have the flashiest direction, but it does exactly what it needs to do, and that's kind of what it is. I think that's what's holding it back from being like one of my favorite movies from the 80s, or like one of those that really reaches the greats, is like we were talking about the music, and just some of the stuff not being quite top grade. But I enjoyed this movie a lot. I'm so glad I watched it, and I give No Way Out an A-.
Yeah, I think that this is why we made this show, is for movies like this, and to get this opportunity to try to take a look back and see the things that maybe were overlooked, or that really in the pop culture we have not remembered, has not been carried along with us quite as well as other films. And this was definitely one of those diamond in the rough situations where this is a movie, like you said, I looked at the cover of it, looked at the title, you're like, what the hell is this? Is this really going to be something that I'm going to enjoy? And I found this movie to be thoroughly entertaining, tense, tight, thriller movie, and a little bit maybe ahead of its time. Like I said, something in the vein of like Clear and Present Danger or a Jack Ryan kind of film. If you like those movies, you will love No Way Out. I'm also going to give No Way Out an A-. So guys, that has been our episode today of No Way Out. We really hope you guys can get your hands on this one, check it out, and if you have already seen it, please tell us in the comments. Like and subscribe here on YouTube, and you can find us on Twitter at Back2Feature and on our Facebook at /Back2Feature. I've been Giovanni Carlo.
And I'm John Madalou.
And we're going to see you guys next time.